Picture this. It is a warm Friday afternoon, right? The workshop is absolutely packed to the rafters with gear that needs to be back on the road by Monday morning. Everyone is knackered, everyone is looking at the clock, and the supervisor, well, he is practically standing by the exit door with his car keys in his hand, just waiting to run to the local pub for a cold pint. And then we have this one mechanic. He has got a vehicle fuel tank that needs some urgent welding. But guess what? Every single proper jack in the workshop is currently occupied. So what does he do? Well, he does what we call a bit of Friday afternoon gambling. He uses a forklift to lift the vehicle up and then props it up with a random piece of steel scrap he found on the floor. It is crazy. It is terrifying. But in that moment, under that pressure, it made sense to him. This is what we call the Friday afternoon trap. And when we investigate these things later, some lazy manager always wants to write down human error on the form and call it a day. But if you actually look at the system, if you use ICAM properly, you have to look at the causal codes. Specifically, we talk about human factors code 06, which is time and productivity pressures.
You see, when an organization sets these arbitrary deadlines, like saying everything must be signed off by a 4 p.m. cutoff on Friday, they are not actually managing risk. They are just passing the schedule risk down the line until it lands on the shoulders of the frontline worker. The worker is forced to make a choice. Do they follow the written procedures, which might take hours because the workshop is full and the right tools are not available? Or do they get the job done so everyone can go home? We talk about this transition from work as intended, which is the beautiful, perfect way the job is written in the safety manual, to work as done, which is the messy, real-world reality of how things actually get completed on the ground. When those two things drift apart, safety procedures stop being a protective barrier and start being seen by the crew as nothing more than an operational bottleneck. And this brings us to one of my absolute favorite corporate contradictions, what we call incompatible goals. Oh, you have seen the banners. They are plastered all over the site gates in giant, shiny letters. Safety first. What a load of absolute codswallop. Because the unwritten, unspoken KPIs are always telling a completely different story. The supervisor wants his bonus, the manager wants the weekly production numbers, and the crew wants to go home on time. When senior management fails to provide clear, realistic guidelines on how to prioritize safety when things get tight, they are essentially telling the workers, you go ahead and absorb that schedule risk for us. And when a worker has to decide between safety and keeping his job, or his weekend, production wins almost every single time. It is not a failure of the worker, it is a failure of system design. This actually leads us beautifully into what the legendary safety expert, Professor Patrick Hudson, called the lethal cocktail. He argued that when you mix a conscious violation, like bypassing a safety rule, with an unintended human error, that is when you get a disaster. It is a highly predictable mix, not a random accident. Under time pressure, rule bending becomes a standard operating method. Hudson identified 4 main predictors that tell us exactly when a worker is likely to violate a procedure. The first one is expectation. This is the widespread belief among the crew that you actually have to bend the rules just to get the job done. If the system is so broken that following the rules makes the work impossible, then violating the rules becomes the norm. The second predictor is what he called powerfulness. I like to call this the good bloke syndrome. This is when you have got an experienced, highly skilled worker who feels, he feels he is too good to follow those slavishly slow safety steps. He thinks, I've done this 1,000 times. Those rules are just for the apprentices. The third one is opportunities. This is simply the worker spotting a quick, unpoliced workaround in the moment. No one is watching, the supervisor has gone home, so why not take the shortcut? And the final predictor is planning, or more accurately, a complete lack of planning. When a team is forced to run a complex task on the fly without proper preparation, they are basically forced to make up the rules as they go. I remember working on a massive commissioning project a few years back. The schedule was squeezed to within an inch of its life. The crew had to isolate some high-pressure lines, but the permit office was located miles away on the other side of the site. Under that intense pressure to perform, they decided to bypass the isolation process entirely and just do the work hot. They thought they were being heroes.
They thought they were saving the company time and money. When we investigated, we did not just scold the rushed workers. We looked at why the permit system was designed to be so incredibly difficult to use in the first place. At the end of the day, we have to design safe systems that are strong enough to resist time pressure instead of just blaming the worker who was forced to rush. If your safety system cannot survive a busy Friday afternoon, then you do not actually have a safety system at all. Alright, that's my quick take for today. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you all soon.